Please give it up for Danny Artese.
So, in high school, my nickname was Brittany. But not because kids were mean. See, there was this competition, and it was once a year in the gym at night after school, and it was called air guitar. And it had started out as an actual, like, air guitar competition, but over the years had sort of become a silly little lip sync and dance competition that a couple cheerleaders always won. And after seeing it my freshman year, I thought, well, I could do better than that. So I got my friends Debbie and Jerry together, and we put together this little medley that ended with Britney Spears' song, You Drive Me Crazy, the Stop remix, thank you. And I played Britney, and we ended up winning the competition, and so not only did we get prize money, but we also got to perform at an assembly. So I was in front of the entire school in a long blonde wig and a metallic green top that my mom had sewn for me and hot glue gunned breasts into, and a styrofoam. She was a very supportive woman, and I love her very much. And so I had earned the nickname Brittany. It was actually a show of respect for me at the time. And so when it came time for the next year's air guitar competition, sure, I wanted to win, but more importantly, I wanted to outdo the previous year's performance. That was my goal. That was what I set out to accomplish. So I went bigger. Put together a bigger cast. We called ourselves a cast. We put up flyers around the campus. I went to a school whose name started with F, and so we made flyers that were a play on VH1 Divas Live, which was relevant at the time. And it was FHS Divas Pre-Recorded. And we were the only group that put up any flyers or did any marketing materials whatsoever for air guitar. And we rehearsed. I had a very strict schedule of rehearsals for us, and we worked very hard. Sort of my collaborator on it was Debbie, who I worked with the year before, and she was like the nicest, sweetest person, to the point that one day at school she was wearing a thin shirt, and to keep her nipples from showing through, she wore 2 Band-Aids over them. Like, this is who we're working with. So of course she was going to be performing as Janet Jackson, doing the song If, which, if you're not familiar, is a song that 16-year-olds probably shouldn't even be listening to, much less lip-syncing to. So I didn't tell her what the words were. So she was just lip-syncing buzz, 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 which is what it sounds like the first time you hear the song anyway, so it was actually fairly accurate. And we had this move in the dance where I was on my knees with like fishnet sleeves, and she shoved me down onto the ground face first, and then walked over my back in thigh-high black latex boots that I had gotten for her. And she was like, Danny, I'm so sorry, I feel like I'm hurting you, are you okay? And from the ground I just looked up to her and I said, Debbie, it'll be worth it. And it was, because the night of the performance, we owned that audience. Like, they were all about us. We started off, my friend Jill was Madonna, and then we had Debbie doing Janet Jackson, and then our friend Elizabeth was Selena. Notice the multiculturalism represented in my high school. And then there was going to be the big finale, which was me, and everyone kind of knew that I was going to be doing Britney. But at the time, my favorite thing in the world was a fake out. So I came out to a man's song, novel concept, and I was wearing like black pants, a black vest, and a fedora, and I was doing my little lip sync and dance, and then very soon into it, because everyone knew it was coming, it switched to Britney Spears' Stronger, which was a video where she was dancing on a chair, and so I was like, because it was lip sync, so that's what I did. And the only thing I loved more than a fake out was a fake out within a fake out. So just as soon as that music started, it was interrupted by dum, dum, and I took off my black hat and my long blonde wig tumbled down. Dum, dum, the vest was off. My tearaway black pants were in a heap on the floor. Because that night, I was not going to be performing to Stronger by Britney Spears, but recreating her scandalous 2000 Video Music Awards performance of Oops, I Did It Again, wherein she stripped from a black suit to a flesh-tone, sheer, stocking sort of garment, if we can call it that, with strategically placed rhinestones and glitter. I had recreated the costume without my mom's help this year. She was in the audience and didn't know I was going to be doing that. I should mention at this point that the year before, although the judges had awarded us first prize in air guitar, we were not allowed to collect our prize until we wrote a letter of apology to the school administration. Because apparently my costume had violated the dress code. Not because I was dressed as a girl, but because that green top that my mom sewed for me was midriff bearing. And that was a problem. So this year, the administration had instituted a costume approval process. So 2 weeks before this night, I was in the principal's office with the principal, assistant principal, and the dean of students, with the blinds drawn, in my flesh-tone bodysuit, my bedazzled bra, and my silver glittery thong, just doing a 360-degree turn.
Yeah.
I know you're imagining it, you should. And then, even though they didn't like it, because the bodysuit covered me from neck to toe, they had to approve my costume. So I got to wear it. But I told them, because they were worried, I said, don't worry. I'll tone down the sexuality of the dance moves. Which, that afternoon, I completely meant. I with every spandex-clad fiber of my being. But the night of the performance, with the music going and the lights, I kind of forgot that, and I may have turned around and shaken it very hard. And as I was performing, the audience was screaming. And it was mostly in delight, but there was a little bit of terror. Because you could not tell if I was actually wearing anything under the thong, or if I was just all greased up, kind of like the Vaseline that Nancy was responding to. That's pretty much what it looked like from a distance. And when it was over, like, it felt like the response was as loud as the VMAs themselves. And I just felt like I had shut down air guitar. The judges did not quite agree. I got third place, which wasn't bad, but it wasn't really the victory I was hoping for. However, more importantly, I had topped the previous year's performance, and the next day at school, mine was the only one that people were talking about. So I did sort of feel like I had the victory that I really wanted. And the next year, which if you're keeping track was my senior year, was my last chance for air guitar glory. I had a legacy at this point. And so I was trying to figure out how I was going to top that. And I was really struggling for ideas as the date for the sign-ups got closer and closer. And soon it was time for the list to go up for us to put our names, and I hadn't thought of anything. And then the time that it had gone up had passed and there was no list, so I asked the student activities director, you know, when are sign-ups going up for air guitar? And he said that year there wasn't going to be an air guitar. So while maybe I didn't shut down the competition that night, I like to think that I shut down air guitar for good.